Hey all, welcome to the Defiant Spirit Tool Shed. If we haven't met yet, I'm Baruch Halevi, also known as B. And yes, these are my tools. I use these tools in my physical life, in my mental life, emotional life, spiritual life, and I use them with the people I've guided. Now, some of these tools go way back, like 25, maybe 30 years, and some of them are new. This one's relatively new. I've been using this tool with my clients and in my own life for maybe a couple of years now. It's truly a remarkable one, which is why it's one of the first I'm recording in this series or this library, this tool shed. It comes down to two different ways to look at time. And I believe if you can start using this tool, using this way of sort of thinking about your life and time unfolding, then it's going to be transformative. Now, the first way you think about time is our normal, if you will, or our go-to strategy with time, chronos. These are two Greek words, chronos and kairos. Chronos comes from, I don't know where it comes from, but it's the same word as chronological. So it has to do with linear time. It has to do with the progression of time. Thinking of course, a grandfather clock, right? Tick-tock, tick-tock. Just this progression, and we just sort of follow it. Now that's based on the sun, of course. Time, we don't tell time by that clock. That clock is based on where the earth is as it revolves and in relation to time. It's an interesting thing. We don't really understand time. That's why we use space to describe time. But if you think about it as space, it starts to make sense because the earth is moving. And you can see where you are in relation to the sun. And so it's a very, again, linear or quantitative, that's the word, way to look at time. When we're going through our days and we're checking our time, when we're making a coffee date and we're setting a time, we are in chronological, we're in chronos type of time. Not good or bad, necessary. We need to be able to take this ethereal thing called time and break it down into chunks and be able to communicate. It doesn't work so well to have friends if you say, I'll meet you at 2 revolutions of the earth around its axis in relation to the sun over at Starbucks. You won't have any friends. And it comes down to the ability to communicate, to quantify, to be in that type of time. So we need that. You don't need me to even tell you why we need that because you use it all day, think about it. You don't even need a watch anymore. I kind of regret having this watch because hardly do I use it for time. I end up checking my emails half the time. But I look around my office and there's my of course my phone, there's my computer, there's this gadget over here and that gadget over there. There's time recorded and marked and chronology and linear and quantitative and broken down everywhere like never before. That's one type of time. The important shift for me and the Timekeeper tool is when I'm about to go into my house after a long day of work, or when I'm out on a hike, or when I'm just sitting there talking to my kids, or when I'm with a client. I want chronos to go away. I do not want to check my watch when I'm talking to a client or when I'm spending time with my kid or when I'm making love to my wife or whatever those types of experiences are. It's like pornography. It's hard to describe, but you know it when you see it. Well, in the case of time, you know it when you're in it. You know when you're being transactional with your time. You know when you're watching your clock. You have almost lost your connection with that person in that moment when you're checking it because it's transactional. It's still quantitative, and our goal is to be qualitative in those experiences, to have a quality of experience, to leave behind linear. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. A good conversation doesn't stick to the chronos, the chronology, the chronological. A good conversation veers from the script. And you go over here, you talk about that, and that brings us over here. And by the end, it's a tapestry of connection, of quality, and time has disappeared. That's Kairos time. And In our society, it takes a lot of efforting, a lot of intention to leave behind Chronos time. So when I'm going into my house, as an example, if on a good day I'm not caught up in Chronos, or I have a space, as Dr. Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. If between the time of me sort of being stressed out and going into the home, I can create a space, I can get back into Kairos. And this is the tool. I say from Chronos time to Kairos time. You might have a variation or version on it. Maybe you just do this and you put it away, or maybe you take your watch off, or whatever it is. You need to demarcate that kind of time. It's no longer that kind of time. It's this kind of time. And in this kind of time, I'm going to be present at my dinner table. I'm not going to check my clock, my phone. Distraction is in Chronos time. In Kairos time, there's a disappearing of the framework, of the agenda, of the, to-dos, the have-tos, and it's a bunch of get-tos. I get to be alive in this moment with these people, and that won't last forever, at least not according to chronological time. In Kairos time, things go on, and I want to get there. In Kairos time, we're not outside looking in. We're on the inside, just being in it, marinating in whatever that situation presents to us. Now, I can't be in Kairos time if I'm at a stoplight or if I'm, going to an appointment. It doesn't work to say, hey man, I'm sorry I'm an hour late, but I'm on Kairos time. So it's about knowing, is this Chronos time or is this Kairos time? I see this mistake made in so many people I counsel, especially men, who forget to stop being transactional, who forget to fully be present, who forget to make the move from Chronos time into Kairos time. How much strain and tension and heartache and heartbreak has come because you have been there, but you haven't been there. Or you checked your watch while making love to your wife. Don't do that. Or you've been, not even the formal checking of the watch, but again, you were on the outside looking in. People can feel that when we're not in Kairos, when we're still stuck in Chronos. So just another idea on Chronos time. Viktor Frankl talks a lot about memory. And one of the things he says about memory is too often we think of it as Chronos. He doesn't say that, but that's how he describes it, where it happened back there. It happened in my past. It's history. Another teacher of mine, a mystic named Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, says there's actually an interesting insight in the Bible. I'd like to think there's many. One of which is there's no word for memory. There's no word for history. There's no such thing as history because the Bible operates in Kairos time, not chronological time. As an aside, the time it does operate in chronological time, like the book of Leviticus, it's maddening. It's hard to follow. But the book of Genesis, as an example, is Kairos time. There's not a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's an eternal myth, a truth that is true whenever we read it, wherever we are. It speaks to us. That's Kairos time. There's no word for history because it's not linear. It's not quantitative. It's qualitative, and that's why it's called memory, because memory didn't happen way back when, taught Rabbi Sachs. It's happening now. History is his story. It's their story. It's other. Memory is my story. I'm inside the story. And that's what Viktor Frankl says about memory. Memories are not gone. They're not dead. They're not figments of our imagination. According to Frankl, and I believe this with every ounce of my being, memories, if they're truly memories, if they're memories of meaning, not nightmares, if they're memories that we are invested in, we were invested in, then they don't die. We don't leave them behind. No memory left behind. We carry them with us. We become a guardian of those memories. As Frankl said, the sad thing is young people looking to the future. The beautiful thing is an older person looking to the memories, not the past, because those memories are alive and they're well. They're in you. There is no past, present, or future in Kairos time. In Kairos time, we're here now. We're present in this moment. We are experiencing the quality of our existence. We're not tracking it with the quantity of, our fleeting time, our fleeting days. There's a lot more with Chronos and Kairos. I invite your insights into Chronos versus Kairos. I invite your feedback. Leave it here in the tool shed so that we can benefit from your wisdom as well and your experience of living these tools out in the world. So remember, as you go off into your world, it isn't that one is better than the other. It's all about the space between stimulus and response. Do we want to live in reaction? Do we want to live in response? There is a time for Chronos. There's a time for Kairos. I'm going to break out into a bird song. It's all about becoming intentional and choosing which to use at which time. That is the time-keeping tool. I will see you in the next tool in this tool shed. And until then, defy your number, live your spirit.